Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you getting on? So it is update day. Nuka World on Tour is being deployed as we speak. So let's jump into the patch notes, have a look at all the new features, and a little look at the bug fixes that will be coming with this update. Okay, yeah, so Nuka World on Tour. Looking forward to this one. We've got a whole load of new stuff going on, new events, bits and pieces like that. The usual slew of bug fixes, as well as Season 11 arriving as well, which got some pretty cool rewards. All of the various parts of this update you can have a look at in separate videos if you want a more detailed look. I'll link those up in this corner somewhere, so do check those out if you want to get that detailed deep dive. But we'll blast through this in hopefully a reasonable amount of time. So, let's crack on. Okay, Nuka World on Tour. Usual Nuka World style artwork and 76 style artwork together, which looks pretty cool. Gotta like that. So, we have patch sizes. The smallest being on Steam on PC, so that's a 16GB update. Those of you on Xbox have got the largest one, that's 25.1 gig. And in fact, yeah, all the others are over the 20 mark rather, so yeah, not the biggest update ever, not the smallest one either, so you might want to bear that in mind. So, Nuka World on Tour. I'm going to fly through this, give you a quick overview. You can read through all the various bits and pieces yourself if you would like to. Hit that pause button and stuff. But the Nuka World on Tour Travelling Roadshow has finished unpacking their tents, stocked the Nuka-cade with rewards, and is ready for visitors. So yeah, we have a brand new location in the game that's down in the ash heap. It is just to the west of Louisburg. You won't see it on the map when you first load in, you will actually have to head over there and discover it, which you can do either by fast travelling to, I would suggest, Louisburg or Louisburg Station, and then just do a quick 180 and head back down the road. You won't be able to miss it. The other option, of course, is wait for one of the events to pop up and fast travel directly to those. It'll show you most of the map markers will pop up when you do that anyway. Tunnel of Love might not do it because it's an internal location, but everything else will. So, speaking of new events, we got 3 new public events. First up, Spin the Wheel, Most Wanted, and Tunnel of Love. So these are pretty cool. Once again, there are individual videos on each of these events if you want to have a look at them. So Spin the Wheel, basically you are in a big tent in the Nuka World on Tour fair location. It's basically a travelling fairground. You head in there, and there's a big wheel, funnily enough, in the middle with the bottle and cappy standing either side of it. Hit the button on that, the wheel spins, and a random challenge will pop up. It might be defending mascots against an attack, it might be Brahmin tipping, it might be dodging exploding radstags, it might be catching some chickens. There's a whole range of stuff in there. So you survive 5 rounds of that, which is not massively challenging. It's one of the longer of these events, I feel, but yeah, it's decently cool, and you'll get a set of rewards. Apart from all the usual stuff like purified water and stim packs and stuff, you'll get unique legendary items. I'll get the words out. There's different themed ones that drop from each of the events. They have unique skins. Most of them have unique legendary effects on them as well. You can also re-roll these as well if you're not happy with the legendary effects on them, but that's quite cool. And you will get duplicates on them occasion, so if it turns out you're not happy with your re-rolls as well, you can still start over. So, not too bad there. There's also, of course, camp items and outfits and things like that in there, and plans for all that stuff that can drop too. So, that one's Spin the Wheel. Most Wanted is just up the road from there. That's a Wild West themed one. You've got a kind of cardboard standy style Wild West town there with various citizens around it. The basic gist of it is when the event starts, you run in there, rob the citizens. Some of them will be holding little kind of safes on their chests. Some of them will be little safes that scattered all around the location. Grab all the loot out of those, dump it into a wagon in the middle of town, and at the end of that, you will defend the wagon against attacking robot security, the sheriff, and so on and so forth, and make your getaway for rewards. And again, unique rewards to Most Wanted as well, but the general gist of how it works is the same as with Spin the Wheel, so different set of stuff, but very cool nonetheless. Last but not least is Tunnel of Love, and say this one is in an internal location rather than outside in the overland regions. It's down in a mine shaft, the entrance to which is part of the Nuka World on Tour location. So you'll fast travel straight in there if you fast travel to the event, or you can head in the door if you're outside, and you'll find yourself in a mine shaft decorated for a Tunnel of Love themed ride. You head down there, there'll be some repairs to make, some decorations to do. At the end of it, there is some enemies to defeat, a wedding for Mr. Lovely, Mr. Handy down there that operates the ride. He will have a wedding ceremony at the end of it that you will have to facilitate and defend against unwanted visitors. And again, at the end, you get unique legendaries, you get some regular rewards, and some unique bits and pieces for camps and outfits and stuff like that. So these are public events that pop up with the exclamation mark. They will go into rotation with all of the other ones, so every 20 minutes, top of the hour, 20 past 22, as usual with those. For the first 4 weeks of this update, so between now and the beginning of next year, those will pop up more often, these new ones. It's basically the same thing they did back in March when they put the new public events in with Test Your Metal. Is that March or June? One or the other, anyway. But they basically made the new events come up more often, so it's looking like top of the hour it will most commonly be one of the new ones, and they can also pop them up in the other 2 slots as well. And then, in the new year, once they're all back from Christmas, it'll settle down so it'll go into regular rotation as with everything else. But yeah, very cool, some new events. So we also have win prizes at the Nuka-cade. So this is basically what it sounds like. It's an arcade. There are loads of little arcade games like Crush the Commie, so the whack-a-mole type thing. There's strength tests, there's shooting tests and various other things like that. That you can engage with in the Nuka-cade. You succeed at these, you get points and tickets. Take those over to the terminals in the Nuka-cade, and there are a range of different prizes, obviously at different point values. So complete the event, that's the games, earn the prizes, and there's some cool stuff in there. There's some weapons, there's some outfits, there's some camp stuff. It's not the biggest list ever, but there's some cool stuff in there, so and it's all repeatable as well, so you take advantage of that. So very, very cool. We also have a new world boss, the Ultrasight Titan, who is very, very cool as well. Definitely nice to have another nuke-orientated boss, much like Scorched Beast Queen or Earl. We've now got a 3rd one coming in, so that's quite cool. There is a fellow in the Nuka World on Tour location called Pete, who is involved in this particular event. Basically, he acts as a lead-in quest for it, so it's worth going down there, exploring the location, talking to this guy, and getting the background on that quest. So it gives you a bit more context. It also kind of hints at where to nuke, because the place you nuke is not the Nuka World on Tour primary location, it's away from it, which makes a lot of sense, and then you're not constantly living in the nuke zone, which is fine, but you know, the other events have that element, so no need for it. But yeah, the actual fight takes place in the middle of the roller coaster, which is up towards Lewisburg at the top of the location. And there's a massive Ultrasight Titan there who will require lots of shooting, as per. There are also Ultrasight sort of crystals that spike out the ground. You have to destroy those with melee attacks specifically in order to basically make the Titan vulnerable, otherwise he won't take any damage. Yeah, decent world boss, functions somewhat similarly to the others. The balance is, I think, a little bit better than, say, Earl is. So that's quite cool, and it's an interesting, fun thing. And yeah, you can nuke it, you get a whole bunch of rewards as per usual. So always good fun there. Nice to add a little bit of variety in. So that is the most of the new content type stuff. We also have Season 11 starting this evening, which should be very, very cool. So unsurprisingly, Nuka-Cola themed season, Nuka World themed. Nuka World isn't just limited to the Travelling Roadshow. With today's update, we have a brand new Nuka-Cola themed season to quench your thirst. Tour around Nuka World, visiting iconic locations such as Dry Rock Gulch, Safari Adventure, and more. Basically, the scoreboard has all the locations from the Nuka World update, DLC rather, for Fallout 4 on it, so it's very much got that theme, which is quite cool. Complete your daily and weekly challenges to earn score, as per normal, and unlock new items. This is worth noting, it says Sheepsquatch Power Armor paints here. As far as I can see, there's nothing Sheepsquatch whatsoever on the scoreboard, so I don't know if this is a typo, some weird carryover from somewhere else, or what, but they're Nuka-Cola themed power armors. They're cool, but they're not Sheepsquatch themed, so worth mentioning that. That's a bit of an odd thing. As per, there are campfire items, consumables, armor paints, all manner of stuff like that, and a new ally as well. So yeah, also gone through all of the rewards on Season 11 if you want to check them out ahead of time. Link it up here as per usual, so do check that one out. Definitely some very cool stuff in there. I'm looking forward to this season. A lot of really good camp stuff as well. They're also adding the Scout's Banner, which is a brand new consumable. From the look of things, we'll have to see when we actually get in and get our hands on them, but they seem to be sort of one-shot, instant use things. The language here on the patch notes is a bit weird. So they look like instant use things. You know, you pop your battle banner and you'll get the effect. The language here says they got 1 of 5 bonuses that will last for you and any players in your vicinity. It doesn't say how long, and these don't read like things that would last over a period of time. So I'm guessing they just affect everybody around you as opposed to lasting long term. So the bonuses are Battle Medic, which heals 20% of your HP, Battle Driven restores all of your action points, Battle Forged that repairs all your weapon conditions by 10%, not a lot, but it is what it is, Battle Hardened, which repairs your armor by 10%, and Battle Vision, which highlights enemies in the area for 5 seconds. So you see what I mean with it sounding like one-shot things that just go for either an immediate effect or a very short-term one, and then they wear off. I think that's going to be the vibe, but we'll have to see when we get in. They're somewhat functionally similar to lunchboxes in that you pop them and get the effect, I think. Obviously, lunchboxes last for an hour. Doesn't look like these do. That wouldn't make a lot of sense given what we've got here on the patch notes, so I'm guessing they're instant. But yeah, I think they're probably going to be less useful than the lunchboxes, but on the other hand, they're an additional freebie coming from the scoreboard, so not something to worry about too much, but if you're interested in that, there's the info. We have a new Fallout First feature. For those of you who have Fallout First, you will be getting an ammo storage box. So this basically works pretty much exactly the same way as a scrap box does. You build it in your camp, you put your ammo in it. It has no limit to how much weight you can store, basically. So you can carry less around on your person if you want to, you can store less in your stash if you want to, and it solves that problem. Fallout First only, but then they're adding extra value to the subscription, so that's fair enough. One thing it does not store, or 2 things rather, plasma cores and fusion cores. So your Gatling lasers, your Gatling plasmas, their ammo will not be going in there. Everything else, you're good for. So that's cool, good to know about. It'll free up a bit of space in a lot of people's stash from the sound of things, so that's going to be fun. There is a basic version of it, and there's an additional skin for it that is on the scoreboard as well. So, there's one other thing that has proved, well, I'm tempted to say controversial, but let's be honest, it's only controversial with a small section of the community. They're a loud section, but they're still a vast minority, so, you know. And that is weapon changes. Obviously, we talked a while ago about Bethesda's plan to remove legacy weapons from the game. The plan is still going to happen, it's just not happening today. That is basically because their efforts to do this are causing other issues. They haven't quite got it fine-tuned in time. So this particular change, the removal of legacy effects, is not happening today. It's being pushed back down the line. They haven't said how long it'll take to come out, probably because they don't yet have an answer on that. They have implied that they'll be telling us more about it in a future Inside the Vault post on down the line, probably early next year. But as to whether or not it'll come out on its own in the beginning part of next year, or they will wait until the next update, sort of like this one, but the next one, which is scheduled for the last day of February. So that's when this season will end. It's when this update period ends and the next one starts, 28th of February. As to whether or not the legacy change will happen then or sooner, we don't know yet. Just depends how long it takes them to do it and whether or not they feel it's worth implementing early. But fingers crossed, at least they'll have it by February anyway. So better that they get it working properly rather than having effects in areas they don't want it to as well. So that is what it is. So there's one thing I want to raise before we dive into the bug fixes here, and that's vaguely, it's interesting and odd at the same time, and that's something that is missing from this list. Specifically, it is the free cam mode for camp builders. Basically, the idea here is you can shove your character off in a corner, activate free cam mode, and the camera will just fly around and you move that instead of having to position your camera in order to camp build. This is supposed to be included in this update, but it's not mentioned in the patch notes. So it's odd that that's not on here. I'm guessing it's just something they've accidentally left off the list. I'm guessing. We'll find out this evening, obviously, when the servers come back up, but it's a thing to mention nonetheless and keep an eye out on, so that's a little bit odd too. So, there we go. That is all the big stuff. Next up, we have bug fixes and improvements. So I'm going to scroll through all of this so you can pause and read everything if you would like to. As always, I will link the patch notes down in the description if you want to thumb through these at your leisure. I'm going to go through these and pick out the ones that interest me the most, so keep this video from being insanely long. So we'll have a little look at this, and yeah, as I say, you can have a quick look as I scroll through this if you would like as well. So there we go, onto the event stuff. Decent amount of event stuff. Some expedition stuff, which is not massively surprising as it's new. Whole load of item stuff. That's about what we expect. Not a lot of quest stuff, which I hope is a good sign. But there we go. Couple of UI, couple of weapon things, couple of world changes as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and pick out the ones that interest me. Power armor fix here on the art stuff. The Heat Eater power armor headlamp now points in the correct direction when applied to Union power armor. I have no idea what the Heat Eater power armor headlamp actually is, but yeah, good to have it point in the right direction. Some fixes to Raider power armor helmet skins and Hellcat power armor helmet skins to fix headlamp issues as well. The Wasteland Knight power armor paint no longer makes a player's head appear to be floating. Well, that sounds like a good thing. And Enclave paints for plasma weapons now display correctly when changing and applying mods in all views. Okay. Camps and workshop stuff, that always interests me. Arm Wrestling Machine has had the animation fixed. Blueprints, they fixed an issue causing blueprints with the Nuka-Cola billboard to give a false floating error. So if you happen to be having a Nuka-Cola billboard, that should place more correctly. I have a feeling this might be a new item that is coming in the season, so as to whether or not this is fixing an old issue or a new one, I don't know. But if it's a new one, that's odd that it's here, but it is what it is. Build mode. Atomic Shop items purchased through the workshop menu, as opposed to coming out and going into the Atomic Shop, can now be placed immediately and no longer require the player to exit and re-enter build mode. That's not a massive change, but it's somewhat convenient. The Concrete Mausoleum, very cool prefab, like that one a lot. Furniture placed inside it now snaps to the structure floor instead of the ground. So apparently some stuff was snapping through. I see, yeah, when you were placing some furniture in, it didn't want to place on the floor. It would mess around, it'd say it was floating, stuff like that. There was a lot of needing to blueprint and then place to get around that. That shouldn't be an issue anymore. So that's good, that's a nice update. Good to see them continuing to fix little issues with prefabs, especially as the most recent prefab had a number of little issues, so it's promising for that as well. Pumpkin racks, now destructible and can be repaired. Cool. You'll probably need pumpkins for that though, bear it in mind. Rest in pieces. Address an issue preventing wallpaper from applying to left top wall slant, so particular wallpaper that wouldn't go on a particular wall piece. Tipsy Tom machine, vending machine. Fix an issue causing animations to break when fast travelling away from it. Okay. Wall weapon rack. Chainsaws now display properly on the walls if you want to have some chainsaws on the wall of your camp. And the Wildwood Tavern. They've expanded the passive power to cover all of the floors. Good. That was my one big gripe with the Wildwood Tavern prefab. Very cool prefab, but the power did not go anywhere near far enough. There'd be particularly the ground floor. Or was it the top floor? I think it was the top floor, actually. The power from the conduit there just didn't reach it. So now it should, which is great. Nice to see them fixing stuff like that. Okay, so with the events one, we've got some event stuff and some just general quest fixes here. Most of it's little things, as stuff like people not appearing early and dialogue lines and stuff like that, and a few other little bits and pieces from various random events. So have a quick thumb through, see if there's anything there that catches your eye. Worth a little look. So let's look at these expeditions fixes. So they've fixed an audio issue causing the Fanatic Manhunter's minigun sounds to continue after death. That's always worthwhile. Dog Ex Machina. The Rusty Protectron will no longer walk into the Desperate Refugee when returning. I don't think I've seen that particular event thing, so that's interesting. But okay. From Ashes to Fire. Optional objective to rescue helpless survivors will no longer reappear on re-entering the mission after it's been failed once. That makes sense. Player can no longer kill the Fanatic Foreman outside of his intended combat phase. So that means you'll have to go through things in the right order, and if anybody's kind of glitching their way through it a bit faster, they won't be able to do this anymore. Address an issue that could cause players to become control-locked while joining teammates' expeditions. It's a good thing. Players will now be kicked out of expeditions when the team leader leaves the team. Okay, that makes sense. Worlds fix. Not quite sure why this would be under expeditions, but okay. Fallout World's custom weather settings now apply to expeditions. Okay, that makes sense. Address an issue causing legendary rewards fanfare to occasionally remain on the screen longer than intended. Address an issue causing reward screen to not display legendary rewards. Yeah, I've seen that one before. It's been happening for a while. The legendary items you get at the end of an expedition, you were getting them. They just weren't showing up on the UI element at the end of an expedition. So you kind of had to dive into your inventory to find out what you got. Which is not the end of the world, but it's nice to have that fixed. It's cool. And they fixed an issue that caused sludge effects to appear at the expedition starting point. Okay, I'm guessing that's from ashes to fire more than anything else. A general fix to looting. Looting plans for certain weapons and armor now allows them to appear in loot. So when you pick certain plans up, you should actually get the plans from the sound of that. That's cool. So a few item fixes here. Backpacks, they fixed the attachment of the Wasteland Wanderer backpack flare, so that should actually be correctly attached to your backpack now. White Russian Hard Lemonade Sweetwater Special Blend now work with a Quack Surgeon perk. Cool. I should look into that, actually. Following items can now be worn with headbands. The Communist Commander hat, Communist Militant hat, Hooded Rags, Insurgent hat, the Mummy Mask, Treasure Hunter outfit, hat, Vault Survivor hood, and wrapped cap. So you can combine those with more things now if you want to specialize your look a bit more. Players can now drop a certain set of keys. Okay, might have to have a look at dropping certain keys on mine because I've got a lot of duplicates. So power armor item fix, we've got the Fanatic Jetpack power armor mod can now be applied to all parts of the Hellcat power armor. I think that's probably one of the season updates, season rewards that was not applying properly, but good to know that works. Possibly Stamps one, I don't know. Skins fix here. We've got nuclear winter weapon and armor skins can no longer be traded. So yeah, that's keeping them especially rare. These days they come from public events, particularly ones that people don't engage with a huge amount. So they still remain a certain level of rarity, which is cool. And this is going to keep them being even more rare because you can't trade them. That's okay. And they implemented a fix to the sleeping animation in the lean-to survival tent, which is cool. A whole bunch of localization fixes. Apparently we've got a couple of fixes here on perk cards as well, which is cool. Makeshift Warrior, for those of you using melee weapons. Makeshift Warrior perk now provides the correct amount of condition loss reduction per rank. Apparently it was not actually providing what it was supposed to provide. Good to know. Whether or not that's a decrease or an increase they haven't mentioned, but fair enough. And the Exploding Palm legendary perk now works with all unarmed weapons, or clarifies that it works with all unarmed weapons, which is cool. Okay, so we've got a few little fixes here and there to quests as well. Some are more interesting than others. One that's leaping out at me is the bell tolls. They've disabled the bell tolls. Sounds like they've disabled an entire event there. I'm guessing that's the case. I think that's probably the half-sunken church in Charleston. Sometimes Melody Larkin will start shouting about stuff for the player to do at random times. Apparently this event is the cause of that, it sounds like. So it looks like they've disabled that event altogether, which makes sense. Nobody was really doing it. All you got out of it was a tiny bit of scrap anyway. And an earful off Melody Larkin. So if she's not going to yell at us quite so often, that's a win. I haven't actually seen that particular issue since they fixed it in relation to one of the events down in the Ash Heap. But apparently it's still cropping up for some people, so hopefully that'll solve the problem. And they fixed an issue with vital equipment as well that causes the item you pick up to return to ward to stay in your inventory after you've returned it. Now it shouldn't hang around anymore, which is cool. Oh, this is a good one. A stability fix. Fixed an issue causing a server not responding error when using a power armor station. It kind of depends where they're placed sometimes, but yeah, that could happen. It would wig out and not work properly. That should now no longer be a problem. Definitely a win. So they fixed a UI issue with ammo counts, so that the ammo counter in the Pip-Boy should be updated properly when picking up additional ammo. It's a little thing, but it has kind of caught me out, been a bit annoying at times, so that's cool. Ooh, there's a nice thing. The new tab now appears while selling and scrapping, so that's going to make menu navigation a little bit easier when you're selling things or scrapping things, because it only appeared in your Pip-Boy previously, and now it's going to appear when you interact with vendors and stuff like that, and workbenches to scrap stuff. So that's a nice little change. That's kind of a cool little quality of life change that I like. Definitely down for that one. A nice little change to camp building as well here. Items now retain their placement preview rotation when placing the same object. Yeah, basically when you place an object, a chair or something like that, if you rotate it so that it's facing the right way, place it, it then was popping back around to face the original starting position, so you have to rotate it again in order to place one next to it, for example. Now you won't have to do that, so that's a nice little fix. So we've got a couple of weapon fixes here that are interesting. The chainsaw bow bar now adds armor penetration and counts as a bladed weapon. Additionally, the chainsaw's name now correctly updates if you apply the Halloween skin to it. Didn't know there was a chainsaw skin, that's cool. Cryolator now uses correct reload animation, nice. Melee weapons now take correct amount of condition damage when blocking attacks. So don't know if that's an up or a down, but it is a change. The cultist dagger and bowie knife can now be modded. In what way, I don't know. Possibly made legendary. Don't know. It's a bit of a niche thing, but it's cool. This is a change that is quite cool. It kind of ties into the legacy thing, but is kind of in the opposite direction to everything else. The radium rifle is no longer considered an energy weapon and can now drop with the explosive bullet's legendary effect. So, like other assault rifle type weapons, the radium rifle can now be explosive. Previously it couldn't because for some weird reason it was considered a energy weapon, and energy weapons can't have the explosive thing. So in this case it's an example of a legacy becoming no longer a legacy, which is cool. It's just a standard weapon again now, so that's nice. Definitely very cool. At least that's working and they're keeping that in, even if the rest of the changes sort of related are coming, well, being pushed back. So definitely like that one. Worth noting though, if you are crafting radium rifles previously using the Science Expert, I think it is perk, one of the science perks anyway, reduced the crafting cost of radium rifles because they counted as energy weapons. Now that they don't, that perk will probably no longer apply to them. It might mean a ballistic related perk does instead. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it's just a little FYI for you. So bear in mind. Couple of world fixes. Toy cars no longer explode in Vault 76. Interesting. And they have fixed numerous concrete deposits around the world that couldn't be harvested. They have fixed a terminal in the White Spring Kitchen. I don't know what was an issue with that one, but apparently there's a terminal somewhere in there and they've replaced it or something. Okay, so okay, there we go. So, patch notes for Nuka World on Tour that should be up later on today, this afternoon, this evening, depending on what part of the world you're in. Definitely looking forward to jumping into this. Going to be streaming it later this evening. There's a lot of stuff that should be good fun. New public events, add a little bit of variety. Same thing applies to the new world boss as well. So mixing up what we're doing a little bit and changing things up is always fun, having new stuff to do. There's tons of cool new rewards, both in the events and in the new season. So definitely happy to be diving into that. Plenty to keep us busy for a while, and a whole bunch of other little changes and stuff around that are really cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this particular update. I think there's a lot of cool stuff. In some ways, it's perhaps not the most exciting thing ever, given that it's events and things like that. It's a bit focused on specific things. It's the last of this year's endgame updates, really. Most of 2022's updates, the vast majority of it, has been endgame centric, which, to be fair, players have been asking for more endgame content for a very, very long time, and that's what they've spent this year endeavouring to add to, which is fine. Obviously, I'm sure we're all well aware, we haven't had a whole lot of story content this year, and by not a whole lot, I mean virtually zero. So, in all likelihood, we'll see a flip in direction on that next year and see it much more story-centric. I would think. They've kind of hinted at this. Hints are certainly not certain. Certainly not certain? Okay. But it'll be interesting to see what we get next year. Obviously, the first one of those will be arriving in February. On the whole, though some ways not the most exciting ever, it's a cool theme. It's got some really cool stuff to work your way through and gather, and stuff to earn, rewards and stuff like that. And it adds a bit more variety in that in-game, which I'm looking forward to as well. So yeah, happy to have this update. Looking forward to jumping into it later this evening. So, I hope you guys found this useful and informative. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I hugely appreciate it. As always, down below you can find channel memberships, merch store, social media links, all that good stuff. If you're interested in any of that, please do check it out. Follow me on those, hit buttons. It really, really helps out. I massively appreciate everybody doing that. So, thank you very much to everyone who has. And if you get the chance, do join us for live streams. As I say, we're going to play 76 tonight, and we're working our way through the Callisto Protocol at the moment as well, and having some fun with that. It's been an interesting little game, that one. I'm enjoying it. So do join us for those streams as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.